Hello everybody, welcome to episode 2 of me taking the piss out of Jordan Peterson's latest video where he claims to be banned from Twitter even though he hasn't been banned from Twitter. So as you can imagine, it's quite an embarrassing, very hilarious look at Jordan Peterson's mind, a 60-year-old man who recently came back from the dead pretty much, and now he's decided his main priority in life is to make propaganda videos about how he's being silenced on Twitter. I mean, priorities, mate, priorities. Now, if you haven't seen the first section of this video, episode number 1, please stop what you're doing now and go and have a watch of it now. It's 20 minutes long, analysing the first 5 minutes of his 15-minute video. Yes, there's a lot of piss taking in that first episode. So this next section is bound to be quite long too. Just to catch you up, if you haven't watched the first video or cannot be bothered, Jordan Peterson has basically admitted, just recently at the end of the last video, to being a bigot. He said you shouldn't have pride in being a gay person. You shouldn't celebrate your sexuality. You should just go away and be cancelled and just be silent in the corner there, you know, because cancel culture is wrong, except when we do it. Right? So go away and be quiet in the corner. And meanwhile, he has a lot of pride about being a bigot and just essentially admitting it on camera. The hypocrisy and double standards are through the roof. But of course, no one gives a shit if you're a fan of Jordan Peterson about the hypocrisy, because it's okay when he does it. So without further ado, let's carry on with the video.
Next phrase to interrogate. And Ellen Page. Now, why did I stop there? Because in all likelihood, it was this seemingly innocuous phrase, including the name of a well-known actress, there I'm in trouble again, that likely resulted in my ban.
Yes, what a rebel you are for accidentally, on purpose, dead naming an actor there who is trans. Well done, Jordan Peterson. You're such a rebel. It's no wonder people follow you with their pitchforks aflame. You know, it's just to think that this is some kind of rebellious thing to do, rather than just being a knob, you know, on purpose. It doesn't make any sense at all. Just grow up, you know.
I committed the fatal crime of what has come to be known in the appalling sensorial terminology of the insane activists as dead naming, which is the act of referring to someone who has transitioned, another hated piece of jargon and slogan, by the name and by the inference, the gender, really the sex, that everyone knew them by previously, and in the case of Ellen/Elliot, that millions of people recognized and knew. So I should have either called him, her, they, Elliot, instead of Ellen, although as we will discover, that would have made it impossible for me to say what I wanted to and need to say in the remaining phrases. Not that such a problem would bother those who are objecting to my speech in the first place.
This is a 60-year-old man who's making a video about the fact he can't call someone by their original name. Oh my God. Imagine if your granddad behaved like, well, I suppose many of Jordan Peterson's fans' granddads do behave like this, to be fair. I mean, my one was pretty similar at times, you know. But it's just, how are you not embarrassed by this if you're a Jordan Peterson fan, you know? I got a lot of people in the first video, in the replies for the first video, actually saying stuff like, you know, this guy's got a big brain, he's got 152 IQ, he's a very smart man, but he has slightly embarrassed himself with this video. But don't worry, he's making an important point. What is that point? And other people in the video saying, and this is my favourite response ever, and I've commented to these people in the video, if you like looking at the replies to the video and people going mad about nothing, my favourite reply that any grifter gets, his fan base always do this, they always come along and say, well, I think you find you're wrong, and then never, ever, ever, ever explain why I'm wrong in my analysis, ever, okay? This is my analysis right now. This is a 60-year-old man pissing and moaning about the fact that someone has changed their name and, you know, had a sex change operation, you know? What I would argue very strongly, and possibly a reason why Twitter has flagged up his tweet, is because Jordan Peterson can theoretically mind his own fucking business and not go along picking on trans people out of nowhere and just sort of saying stupid shit to them and about how it's a crime for them to have their breasts removed by a criminal physician and all this kind of weird accusations that you just don't need to get involved in, and just let Elliot live his life in peace. I'm sure now that Elliot is Elliot, he's a very happy person, I'd imagine. He's where he wants to be in life, just, you know, running along in fields, holding hands with other trans people, saying how great their life is, you know, having a lot of fun. And then Jordan Peterson comes along, you know, out of his fucking old person's home, saying, no, you're not allowed to do that because it's not traditional. I don't like it. And it's just beyond embarrassing sometimes.
The next phrase is, just had her breasts removed. This bit suffers from a very similar problem. I employed the forbidden pronoun her when Elliot, Ellen, is now to be regarded as a he or else. But there's a conundrum here, to say the least, and not just for me, although I have been banned because of it.
You have not been banned because of it. You've been suspended because you have to remove the tweet first. Because whether you like it or not, and we can all disagree about this until the cows come home about how strict Twitter's rules are, or whether they should even be applicable. But by the laws of Twitter, which is a private company, and you have to abide by their rules, if you don't abide by their rules, then you are punished in some way. And in this case, you have been suspended until you remove a tweet that they deem is offensive. Whether it's offensive or not, to the minds of Jordan Peterson fans or any other person, is irrelevant. It's offensive to the minds and the guidelines of Twitter. So, like when you were on Patreon and people were being booted off Patreon because they were really a little bit too far right and saying a little too many things that were offensive and being absolute cunts about things, you know, they have a right to remove that person from their platform. You can argue till the cows come home that it's cancel culture. And, you know, why am I being silenced? And the answer is because you broke the rules of a specific company and you're refusing to abide by those rules, right? If I went into a library and I got on a table and I took down my trousers and pants and I did a massive shit on the table, they wouldn't go, shh. They would say, I'm phoning the police. You're going to go to jail. Why? Because it's not right to take a massive shit in front of all these people. And that is exactly what you've done. Basically, that's pretty much it.
Was Elliot/Ellen a she or a he, or Ellen or Elliot, when she or he or they, that's Elliot or Ellen, by the way, had his or her or their breasts removed?
For a bunch of people who absolutely hate using pronouns, he did a very good job there of using every pronoun available right there. Jesus Christ, man.
If he or she was a he, then why was it necessary to have the mastectomy? And how could those I'm writing to make sense of what I was saying if it was his breasts that were removed?
Jordan Peterson, a man with 152 IQ, as I've been told in the replies for the first video, not understanding how a sex change operation works. On purpose as well, yeah? To make a point that, oh, no, you're not actually a man, you're not actually a woman, no, because if you were, you wouldn't have this, that, and the other. That's not how science works, my friend. That's not how science works.
Were those male breasts or female breasts that were removed? If they were male breasts, then why were they removed?
Right, I'm going to give you an absolute, this is going to blow your mind here, Jordan. I am a man, a straight man, so acceptable to you, okay? Check these out. Look at those, baby. Oh, look at those. Side angle, profile. Oh, yes, those are lovely man breasts there. What's the conundrum there, my friend? What am I, in your opinion, because of these bad boys? Sorry, these bad girls. What happens now, eh? What's going on, you know? Is this acceptable or not? Jordan, you know, if I have these removed, what gender am I? You know, what's going on here, Jordan? Jordan.
If they were female breasts and had therefore become objectionable to the degree that surgery generally reserved for cancer treatment was required, was morally obligatory, then wasn't Elliot still Ellen and he still she?
Again, 152 IQ cannot differentiate between a surgical procedure because of an illness and a sex change operation on purpose, just to rile up the gammon, which is the entire fan base of people like Jordan Peterson, because they love, so why can anyone explain to me, right? And especially Jordan Peterson fans, why are people who are anti-trans so obsessed with other people's genitalia and body parts? What is the deal with that, right? Like I said before, Jordan Peterson could have just ignored Elliot Page's existence. I mean, Elliot Page has had a sex change operation to become Elliot Page, right? I am aware of this, and yet I don't think about it every single second of every single day. In fact, I largely forgot about it. Occasionally he pops up in the news and I'm like, oh yeah, so that person used to be Ellen Page, yeah. They're looking quite manly there. Yeah, done a good job there. Top-notch physician, one imagines, or whatever drugs they take, trans people. I'm not an expert. And do you know what? Nor is Jordan Peterson. He's just someone who's offended by literally everything. Yeah. So why are you so obsessed with genitalia when it's got nothing to do with you and it doesn't affect your life in any way whatsoever? And number two, how dare you call people easily offended snowflakes when you make 15-minute videos about being banned from Twitter when you haven't been banned, and going on and on and on and on about other people's private parts. Keyword, private.
How could I possibly have written that sentence in any sensible manner whatsoever, while simultaneously making my point understandably and not breaking Twitter rules against so-called hateful conduct? And Elliot Page just had his breasts removed?
Jordan Peterson may market his entire output to very stupid people who aren't aware of the hypocrisy or just don't care about the hypocrisy and the double standards that he portrays. But, what he's doing here is arguably fairly clever, because he's basically trying to take the smallest reason for being banned, right? Because there are several reasons here why he's been suspended, not banned, and he's taken the smallest reason, which could be a bit flimsy, and really focusing on that rather than looking at the entire thing as a whole. For example, as I said earlier, he could have just left Elliot Page alone, but apropos of nothing, he decided to log on one day, choose a trans person, in this case a very famous trans person, and attack them in various ways that he's highlighted himself. And he's well aware that he's got a massive platform and he's using it to target someone and harassing them in that sense, because we know what his followers are like, right? He's not mentioned that once, has he? The fact he's got a big platform and he's going after one particular person, and he's making accusations about that person and, what happened to them to become a trans man and so forth. He's never going to focus on the main overall thing. He's going to pick at little things over and over again to make Twitter seem like some kind of boot stomping, goose stepping sort of authority that he doesn't like, which arguably he would like, if you actually look into what he talks about normally. But still, let's carry on.
Was he Elliot then? When exactly? Exactly. He was definitely Ellen at some point in the past, or so indicate all his, her, them, their film credits. Will all those have to be reshot since they employed the hated dead name? That doesn't exist, by the way, that dead name category, except in the sensorial and addled minds of a tiny fraction of insanely narcissistic and increasingly dangerous trans activists.
Will Elliot Page have to reshoot all of his movies in the past to update the fact that his name is now Elliot Page? No, that's not how it works. If you come out one day and say, I am going to transition, and from now on I want to be known as this, and I want to be, I am a man now rather than what I was before, then you don't then have to go back and change everything from your past, you incredibly stupid prick. Okay? The dangerous trans activists as well. Dangerous trans activists who simply say, look, seriously guys, can you not be a dick about things, right? Just let us live our lives, for crying out loud. Just let us get on with things. It's not bothering you in any way. We make up 0.00001% of the entire society of the world. You're never ever going to even bump into any of us on the street. We're just there trying to just live a life that's just slightly different from yours, you know? And all you do is focus on whether I've got a penis or not. Just get a life, mate. Get a fucking life, you know? Oh.
When precisely was it incumbent on me to switch my terminology in regard to Elliot/Ellen so that I was not engaging in hateful conduct?
You know, sometimes I think to myself, you remember that time when Jordan Peterson, I think he had a sip of cider and he was awake for 25 days. He didn't know what was going on. I think maybe occasionally now he's still sipping on a bit of cider with, you know, like pops a few benzos in there and stuff, you know, absolutely goes mad on it and then sees the fact that Elliot Page exists and makes a video.
And how can I describe the fact that someone who was once a woman, and really still is, had her breasts cut off because she, he, they, their, them had fallen prey to a viciously harmful fad without using the appropriate sex-linked pronoun and the real name of the real person to whom this was really done with his, her, their voluntary but unfortunate acquiescence?
If you're not getting it by now, then I'll fully spell it out for the Jordan Peterson fans watching. Jordan Peterson got banned from Twitter, suspended briefly. Jordan Peterson got suspended briefly from Twitter because someone else that he doesn't know changed their pronouns. Oh, you bloody trans people getting all the far-right idiots banned. Oh, by the way, that reminds me, people get really annoyed when you point out that they're far-right. That's the most thing they get pissed off about. Instead of arguing any point that you make, they'll come along and say, excuse me, actually, I take umbrage of you using the term far-right. Why is everyone who doesn't agree with the left far-right? Well, I'm not saying Jordan Peterson himself is far right. A lot of his ideas do come across that way. But when you're employed, as this video is made entirely to be employed by the Daily Wire service, which is fronted by the incredibly far right Ben Shapiro, and when you associate with Dave Rubin, and I'm not sure if he's even going anymore because no one pays attention to him, and he's blocked so many people on Twitter for pointing out his hypocrisy that he may not even have a job anymore. But theoretically, if you still associate with Dave Rubin, who regularly platforms far-right people, in fact almost exclusively platforms them, and when you move in far-right circles all the time, someone at some point is going to say, I wonder if Jordan Peterson has some far-right leanings at the very least, you know? Anyway, it's all Elliot Page's fault that Jordan Peterson was banned from Twitter. As I mentioned in the first video, they can say or do whatever they want, right? And as soon as they get in trouble, they will blame someone else. And you can't call other people snowflakes and pussies whilst doing exactly what you accuse others of doing, okay? Be a man, an actual man who was born male, Jordan, yeah? Be that man, stand up and say, maybe I was a bit of a dick for talking about someone and because they got slightly different genitalia than what I'd like, or, you know, they did some surgery that I'm not. I mean, you were in hospital yourself for quite a long period of time, and you're now hating anyone else who's been in hospital. Yeah.
And so it was impossible to communicate what had happened to my audience without apparently running afoul of the impossible and absurd rules that now hypothetically govern morality itself in the days of the degenerated postmodern and Marxist ethos that we must still, no matter how impossible it is, abide by, or else.
Here's an idea, Jordan. As I said in the first video, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, here's an idea, Jordan, and as I said in the first video, so apologies that I am going to repeat myself here, you did say once that you were going to start your own social network and your own Patreon, right? The reason is because you're too fucking edgy for everywhere else, right? But you're still on Twitter. You rely on Twitter as one of your ways of making money and getting attention. So if you're confident enough that your fans will follow you, and I do believe in this one instance, you have a fan base that's big enough and will defend everything that you say, no matter how wrong you are. You've got this dedicated fan base for life. Take yourself away, make yourself a social network, Donald Trump has done it somehow. I mean, I don't know if anyone actually looks at it, but still, you can do it. It's been done before. It's been proven. There are loads of Gab and Telegram or whatever it's called and all the other weird place where all the fucking freaks go. Just join one of those permanently if you don't want to make your own. And then you can say whatever you want, right? Because otherwise you're going to be staying on Twitter, you know, trying really, really hard to say the worst thing in the world without breaking the rules, so you carry on, or occasionally breaking the rules and then pretending it's someone else's fault for doing so. Just grow some balls, Jordan. Be a proper man, Jordan. Stop being a fucking pussy, Jordan. Or you can continue making videos about how you're the victim and your fan base will lap it up because they're fucking brain dead.
And you might object. Ellen/Elliot is an adult, 30-something, and fully capable of making up his, her, their own mind about such things. And she, he, they are welcome from the liberal and the libertarian position to go to hell in a handbasket as she, he, they see fit.
They can go to hell in a handbasket. So once again, he's absolutely nailing his colours to the wall there, that being gay, LGBTQ, etc. is wrong and it shouldn't be allowed, according to Jordan Peterson. He's saying there, he might as well have a sign up behind himself saying, I am a bigot, deal with it, you know. By the way, I'm sorry if there's noise outside, someone is mowing their garden at the same time. I'm trying to make a video. Come on, guys. I mean, this isn't fair. I mean, this is all Elliot Page's fault. Someone's fucking mowing their garden and making noise. I don't know if you can even hear it on this fucking video. Oh, how dare you? Oh, this is wrong. This is wrong. Why am I always a victim?
And fair enough, to some degree. But I don't believe it is either merely picayune or inappropriate to point out that Ellen/Elliot, who is quite a good actor/actress, is also a ritual model for emulation, being a star with all the privileges and, let us point out, the responsibilities that go along with that.
I'd just like to point out, though, as I mentioned before, I am a man with quite substantial tits, and I am aware of Elliot Page, and I've watched him in movies before transition and after, and I must say that at no point have I wanted to emulate him and cut my breast off. Jordan Peterson, you absolute fucking freak show.
So by acquiescing to this surgery and by publicizing it, and by insisting upon the sanctity and the moral virtue of his, her, their new, expensive, dangerous, and medically enhanced identity, and by participating in the whole identity charade, Ellen/Elliot has undoubtedly, with his, her, their so-called courage, and remember the White House itself has tweeted out every indication of believing in the courage of those who transition, enticed many a poor, confused adolescent, girl most likely, to blame her emergent pubescent self-consciousness, confusion, and discomfort on being born in the wrong body.
Yeah, just a quick aside. I've just realised, I mean, I've not got 152 IQ, but I just realised that Jordan Peterson, who initially made a tweet attacking trans people, has turned this video around to being I am the victim of my own brilliance, to being an actual attack on trans people overall. So whilst he was, you know, he can go on and on and on about how he's being cancelled on Twitter for saying one thing. He's got 3.1 million views so far of this video on YouTube, and he hasn't been banned. So the argument is, I can't say this anymore. I can't say this about trans people anymore. He's literally made a video where he's not only said what he said on Twitter, but he's expanded on it massively, and he's still able to say it. So make your minds up, grifters. Are you being cancelled or are you not being cancelled?
And believing that the courageous, self-affirming, and morally admirable route is hormonal treatment, sterilization, subjugation to a lifetime of expensive medical complication. How delightfully profitable is that? And misery.
Jordan, you cannot accuse anyone else in the world, not one single person, of being miserable. Fucking look at yourself. If you are not, literally, your entire grift is to be a miserable cunt about everything. Honestly, why do fans of grifters not realise that the entire point of their existence is to moan about everything? If you're not pissing and moaning about something, you're not doing your grift properly.
And I believe firmly that Ellen/Elliot, or whatever the hell her name or his name is.
It's Elliot. I mean, he literally said, my name from now on is Elliot. It's a very small leap from Ellen to Elliot. It's just a couple of extra letters here and there. That's it. You're aware what his name is, and you act like it's like the end of the world that you have to slightly change the way you say someone's name. Oh, woe is me to be Jordan Peterson and having to say people's names slightly differently. Oh.
Bears moral culpability for that. And finally, with regard to the final phrase, criminal physician, I must say that I've had some post-coital, so to speak, regrets about that phrase. It is clearly the case that the surgical operation performed by the butchers who butchered Elliot/Ellen was legal.
Yep, there you go. I mean, just to really push it home, the fact that you've had an operation which you're very satisfied with, and you've got no complaints. In fact, I've seen Elliot Page show off the new torso on there are images on. You just Google it, Elliot Page, and you'll see an image of him putting up his shirt and saying, "Hey, this is my new body." I'm pretty chuffed with it. I'm very happy. But for Jordan Peterson, you have been butchered, because as he's pointed out very clearly, he's bigoted about this situation. You're not allowed to do it in Jordan Peterson's world. You have to. I just want to say, Jordan Peterson and all of these other people like him, I like to give them a label, and I've just remembered to use it now at near the end of this second video, when I should have used it throughout the video. It's people like Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro. In Britain, you've got like Lawrence Fox, Darren Grimes, and all these people. I like to call them New Puritans, or even better, Neo-Puritans, because the Neo part reminds you of another thing labeled Neo. And what it is you are literally offended by everything. You must live like you are living in the past, and not just 10, 20 years ago, fucking 100, 150 years ago. You need to tackle smallpox without any medication, otherwise you're a damn pussy. You know what I'm saying? That's what kind of logic they use all the time. Just puritanical about everything, and that is what they're trying to push on other people. So if you are watching Jordan Peterson and you're 18 years old and you're getting fed all this and you're thinking, no, being any different from 1850 is wrong, take a step back and think about what you're saying to yourself right there.
So, was it criminal or not? Were the operations undertaken by the fascist physicians who carried out the Nazi medical experiments legal?
Was it criminal or not? I mean, no. I assume that it's quite a legal practice that happens in America. Again, I'm just assuming. Does that mean that these legal practices in America are exactly the same as Nazi physicians from the war, who I am sometimes quite attracted to, as being Jordan Peterson, and their fan base certainly remind me that period of time was quite nice. But is it bad and is it Nazi? Let's find out.
Yes, under the laws of the time.
So what are you complaining about then? Yeah, as I said, Puritan. Today's practices, they're bad because I dislike them for reasons that I can never really explain. But so therefore I say they're all fucking Nazis, because I'm clever and I've got 152 IQ.
But were they criminal? I'll leave that question up to you to answer.
So to sum up again, was the procedure carried out on Elliot Page legal? Yes, it was. But was it like the Nazis? Because that was also legal. No, because we live in 2022, and that was quite a long time ago. I mean, let's work it out on a calculator. Fucking ages ago. It's not relevant anymore. It's almost as if the Nazis don't exist, apart from in places like America. And the thing is, does that make it actually legal or illegal? Unless, of course, I'm doing some kind of weird switcheroony where I'll say one thing but mean the other. Unfortunately, you guys may not be smart enough to get that, right? So I should have just come out in the first place as Jordan Peterson and said, is it legal? No. And then someone says, well, hang on, it was legally done in a legal clinic. I've got all of these various, certificates of practice, people who are medically trained to do these bits and bobs, and this clinic here is actually registered to perform these procedures, and she gave consent for this procedure and she's even showing off the results in a happy way. Is it legal? Well, legally, yes, it's legal, But is it legal? And I'll say no. Oh, no, it's not legal because I, Jordan Peterson, deem it to be illegal. Or is it legal? But is it illegal? Or is it legal? Or is it legal? Fucking hell.
And further, perhaps it might be objected, what about the damage done by hypothetically leaving those confused about their identity to dwell in their confusion? Aren't we morally obliged to intervene?
Well, that is a question for like completely irrelevant for him being banned from Twitter. Because like I say, this isn't a video about, turns out, him being banned from Twitter. Okay, the first 7 or so, like half of it is him pissing and moaning about breaking the rules and then blaming it on someone else. But this is a video now about every single thing wrong in his eyes with trans people, trans kids and so forth. None of this is relevant to him saying the wrong thing on Twitter, right? If it was, he would have said something about this in the tweet to Elliot Page in the first place. Instead, he's now using this platform, three and a bit million people watched so far, to go on and on and on and on about trans people. Yeah, you can have this conversation if you want, but it just seems so irrelevant to do it now. And it's so irritating when grifters do this. They say, oh, I'm the victim of something, but while I'm here, I might as well push as much propaganda as I can.
And I would say, no. Why? Well, first, do no harm, as the Hippocratic Oath, remember that, insists. And second, it has been a matter of historical consensus that sins of omission are less egregious than sins of commission. Thus, leaving someone with gender dysphoria, no matter how warranted, and perhaps it is in a very tiny minority of truly unfortunate cases, to suffer the consequences of the theoretical mismatch between soul and body is less of a risk ethically, personally, socially, and philosophically than the extremely active intervention that constitutes so-called gender confirming, another hated phrase, surgery.
A bear walks into a pub. He says to the barman, can I have a pint of... And the barman says, why the big pause? And he goes, well, I'm a bear, aren't I? Sorry, I was just making a joke about how Jordan Peterson just stopped talking there for fucking ages for some reason. Also, slight irony, the Hippocratic Oath, shall not cause harm, is obviously fine for Jordan Peterson in the context of, physical harm. But when it comes to attacking people and harming them in that way, he's completely oblivious to that bit, isn't he? Of course he is. It's quite a big step, one imagines, between, having gender dysphoria, and again, all I can do is guess on this thing. I see a lot of tweets from people saying they have it and so forth, but there's quite a big leap from having gender dysphoria to, having some surgery performed on you. And when you consider, in America especially, you have to raise thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in order to get this surgery done. I imagine most people can't make that leap that you hate so much, Jordan. So not only are you criticizing and being weird about people making that literal transition, but you don't, if the amount of trans people in the world, as I said before, is so low that it's around about 0.0001% of people, then even fewer people than that are going to be able to transition because of the cost of it, right? I'm pretty sure it's not available I might be wrong, on the NHS in Britain, and if it is, I can't see many operations being done per day with such a small amount of people around. So you're taking a small amount of people, making the whole people that you're talking about even smaller, and you can barely see the amount of people that you're talking about right there. It seems for grifters who are anti-trans, it's such a weird hill to die on. It's in anyone's logical eyes and ears looking at this, you'll be saying, well, this affects so few people, right? And there's so many hurdles to go through in order to actually transition, and not just financially. Then why are you investing so much time in this? And the answer is because it's a bigot talking to other bigots, and it's an excuse. You can't come out and say, oh, I hate gay people nowadays. Gay people are really annoying. I fucking hate them. Because you will be clearly, someone will say, well, this is someone who's hates homosexuals. Maybe they shouldn't be on this platform. And you cannot argue that that is you can't say that's not a justifiable way of cancelling someone if you have someone who is so anti-gay and they're on a platform. It's even the biggest bigot in the world will say, well, they're cruising for a bruise in there, they're going to be removed straight away from that platform. But it is acceptable nowadays for the anti-gay brigade to pick solely on trans people because, you know, there's a lot of stigma about that. It is, I mean, apologies to any trans people watching, but there is some weirdness in that scenario. You know, it still takes a lot to get in your mind and get around it. And they're obsessed with men chopping their dicks off to become women. Because remember, as I've made in the video before about transphobia, trans men until today largely don't exist. If this was a person, if he was clever enough to have picked on a trans woman, then we would not hear the end of this. This is just one video. He would have made a series of videos. He would have got the entirety of the bigoted Twitter community to get on board with him. But trans men, they don't have the same sort of impact for you know, oh, they're feminizing all our men by snipping their dicks off, which is like it's not actually the trans woman's own idea to do this. And you know, I'm rambling slightly, but you get my overall point, right? It's ridiculous. You know, such a tiny amount of people, and you're just focusing on it all the time. It's a bizarre grift, and it's a grift that works because so many people in his audience, in his entire audience, are largely bigoted, and they lap this shit up.
I might also point out that the trans surgery enterprise is now a $300 million per annum growth industry. Rate of projected expansion, 15% per year. Projected increase by 2027 to $750 million per year.
And, as I've mentioned before, why is that? Well, it's largely because the bills in America for any surgery, any medical treatment, are fucking unaffordable and sky high. So you're saying, oh yeah, they're going to make all this money. How are you going to raise the money? A normal person, right? If you're truly to your word, sticking to your word about how it's bad for people with dysphoria to be transitioning medically, you know, physically, under the knife, right? Then surely you have to specify further and target all of your attack videos on millionaire kids and billionaire kids who've got gender dysphoria and want to transition, because it's irrelevant pretty much to everybody else. You might get an occasional, I don't know, YouTuber who's very popular and is largely poor and starts a GoFundMe and then can get the surgery from that. But still, you've got that period of time where it doesn't go from 1 to 1 million straight away, for example. You've got a period of time whilst they have to think about things. And surely there's some safeguards in effect that someone will come along and say, are you sure you want to transition? You know, this and this and this, it has to happen. You have to take these drugs and the hormones and so forth. And also you won't have a dick anymore, blah, 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 blah. It's not as simple as, oh, I feel I'm a bloke and I feel like I should be a lady. And I'm going to get some scissors and cut my knob off. Doesn't work like that. You literally are pointing out to your fan base that millions of pounds are made from these very expensive procedures. Surely, I mean, if I can make the link there, then Jordan Peterson's fan base can also make the... Oh, no, they're just ignoring it because they just want to attack trans people. My bad.
An expanding enterprise in a time of global uncertainty. Time to invest, both in the requisite surgical skills and perhaps in any industry associated with this vicious and unconscionable fad, primarily entangling, as such things so often do, the youthful and female.
You know, there's a lot of people who say, you know, when pastors and you know, reverends and so forth, priests in America, for example, when they do their gay conversion stuff and they're like, oh, Jesus says you cannot be a homosexual, amen, amen. And then later they are caught in a scandal where they go to a lay-by with a trucker and they're caught sucking him off, you know. That is exactly what I imagine Jordan Peterson there is saying. He's sort of kind of joking, oh, we should invest in this very profitable sounding business. I bet you any money in the world, a lot of grifters who are anti-trans have some money in this kind of operation. It would not surprise me in any way.
Primarily entangling, as such things so often do, the youthful and female. Isn't that a concern, intersectionalists? not when push comes to shove or ideology to scalpel. Is that not a true moral hazard? And I'm not taking down that tweet or acknowledging that my tweet violated the Twitter rules. Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
There it is. There is the immortal line that went viral and got everyone's attention to this video. Up yours, moral wokers. We'll decide who cancels who. And therein is the biggest... I mean, it's hilarious for a start. I mean, Jordan Peterson, I've been taking a piss out of you for well over an hour over 2 videos. And it is so funny to see a grown man say those words with a straight face. I've been taking a piss out of you, but thank you for making everybody laugh so much with that ridiculous statement right there. But also, on top of that, this is the biggest hypocrisy and double standard of your general grifter. They will say something like, oh, I've been cancelled, have I? Well, let's see who gets cancelled in the end. So you're a person who hates cancel culture. You're the person who hates being silenced. You're a person who thinks you can say and do whatever you want without any pushback whatsoever. And you'll end a video by saying, well, let's see who gets cancelled in this situation. Implying very heavily it's the person. So you hate cancel culture and yet you endorse cancel culture. And it happens every single time without fail. I mean, he's made a video about how trans people in general should be cancelled anyway. If that's not a massive clue, then I don't know what is.
Twitter's a rat hole in the final analysis, and I have probably contributed to that while trying to use, understand, and master that horrible, toxic platform.
Well, you've contributed in the same way a rat leaves loads of droppings everywhere, if that's what you mean, because in that sense, this is the first thing you said that is accurate in this video.
No doubt, I owe some apologies for that.
But you're not actually going to apologise about this, are you, or remove that tweet? Because you've got a stand to make now. You're pretending to be cancelled even though you're not. And, you know, therefore you're going to leave it up and make a fucking stupid video.
I'm trying to learn, but it's a relief in some real sense to be banned.
In some sense to be banned. You know, he can't even admit it himself. You've been suspended for doing something stupid. Grow up and admit your fault. And, you know, you don't have to delete it at all.
And I regard it under the present conditions as a badge of honor.
And there you go. Subscribe to the Daily Wire, where the only place you'll be able to see Jordan Peterson say all the hateful stuff that you love him saying. It's a badge of honour to be banned, even though you're not banned. Well, congratulations, Jordan Peterson. It's a badge of honour for me to take the piss out of you for fucking ages. Right, that's it. I'm actually exhausted after all of that. Hopefully you stuck with me to the end. And if you are a Jordan Peterson fan, as I said early on in the video, you can, by all means, leave a comment saying, you're wrong to think this way about Jordan Peterson. But if you do that, I implore you to please explain why I'm wrong. Don't just say, oh, you're wrong. Send message. Oh, that'll teach him. It's not going to teach anybody. You can't come along and say, debate me, debate me, debate me on Twitter all day long. And then when it comes to it, you're unable to analyse even a single second of a video or a series of videos that are probably up to or over an hour long, for crying out loud. You must be able to pick something out of this fucking thing to actually analyse and actually show me very clearly why I'm wrong. And that kind of sums up all of you guys, you know. If you are watching up until this point, that is what you're all like. You know, you follow this guy who's really smart, but are you smart yourselves? I mean, it's possibly a bit cruel for me to take the piss out of smart people, you know. Maybe you should transition into a smarter person. Maybe you should transition into being a bit of a less of a dick. Of course, you're not going to, because transitioning is bad, isn't it? In any sense of the word. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you have, please subscribe. And there should be more videos like this in the future, because I do enjoy making these, even though they take about 1,000,000 years to edit. So, you know, do subscribe. And also, if you really enjoyed this and you want to encourage more frequent videos from me, then I will ask you very kindly to pop $1 or $2 into my PayPal. Links are below in the description box. And if I have enough money, I might be able to get rid of these. You know, you never know. Thank you, and until next time, I'll see you soon. Laters, baters.